Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm just gonna give you guys reasons why I hate vintage tuna. So for some of you who have followed my channel for the past few months, you probably heard me mention once in a while that how much I hate vintage tuna. However, I didn't give you guys reasons why. But since I changed the string on this guitar, which is a Fender's Performer guitar, suddenly you just all the memory comes back. You just refresh, and then I just realized how much I really hate vintage tuna, and because of that I decided to rant about it today. So if you want to know why, feel free to continue and listen. Otherwise, I will see you guys in next video. So for some of you who are still beginners, or if your first guitar doesn't have a vintage tuner, you probably don't know what is a vintage tuner. So before I begin, I just want to let you guys know this is vintage tuner. As you can see, for the modern tuner, the top should be closed. There should be like a hole in the middle of the pin. It's like a needle kind of needle stick or something. So instead of the thread goes into those holes, you're supposed to be the string goes into the hole, and then you just turn the knobs counterclockwise or whatever wise, depending on the guitar you have, and then you would tighten up, and then there you go, you're ready to go. However, vintage tuner is different. Before you begin, you need to make sure that you cut the string maybe like around 2 cm, 3 cm. Anyway, it's like some people recommend like 2 fingertip or something. I usually cut it to 3 cm or 2, depending on the size of the string. So cut it and then put the tip of that string into the hole like that, like straight 90 degree here, and then you tune it. But while you're tuning it, you need to put your finger here, and then ensuring that it doesn't, trying to, when you stress it, because you're gonna need lots of pressure and stress, you will try to rebound. So you're trying to de-stress it, and then so if you don't hold this properly, the string will come out, or it just doesn't stay in. So all this time, all this work, you rotate the tuner, it's just a waste of time. So it usually takes me like at least 5 to 10 minutes longer to change a vintage tuner than a modern tuner. So that is kind of annoying because it's wasting your time. So that is definitely one reason why. And another thing is that though, especially if you change the last 2 string, which is the higher string, the first and second, it is so much more painful than the other ones. And the reason is why is because it's so thin, and also it is so much more harder to make them fix. So it is always so annoying. And also because of that, you kind of need to increase. So like for here, like 2 cm, 3 cm, I always increase 1 cm longer, because if you reduce it, if you cut it too short when you tune it, because you actually need to tune it higher, so you need much more tension. So you kind of need a longer string to make it intact. However, when you do that, sometimes the string is easier to bend away, which of course all these tuner always like that. If you do it like this and then you let it loose, it pops out, but the tip of the string is bent, so sometimes it doesn't go in, or you just curve. So and then you have to cut the string, and because of that, the length of the string is no longer able to keep it with that the require of the length wouldn't be there. So then because of that, you waste a string. You need to replace it with another string. And that's very annoying, and that's what happened yesterday. Again, it's not the first time, especially the first string here, I had to replace another one. So I need to take out the package of a new set. So all my other string is okay, it just I need a spare one. And so for the next time when I string, I have all the other string except this one. So that's another reason why I hate it, because it's easier to bend it and so forth, so that you just oftentimes if you're not often doing it, and then you kind of forgot one of the way, you just waste a fast string over, and then you just need to spend extra to get more string and so forth. It's just very frustrating, of course. And then finally, another reason why is because, you know, how depend on what kind of stuff you play. Of course, if you play a whole body, I kind of recommend you like 11 or 12 string. But for a strat, you usually prefer a 9th string, a 9 or 10. For this kind of tuners, you usually cannot use a 9. Believe me, I'm not the only person. I'm sure that many people have tried. 9th string is impossible to tune on here, especially the fast string, because the thickness of that 9th string is so thin. It's like hair. When you curl it like that, you're never able to get to that position. Of course, there are some people try it, they think it's okay. I don't do let me know how you do that. But I know that there's also many comments from other channels. They said that it's very difficult to tune it with the 9th string, and I tried it a few times, and many ways of the E string I was unable to tune it properly. So what happened yesterday, I used, this is a 10 gauge string. So what happened yesterday is that when I did this for my first string, it got cut off. So but I was still able to manage to get it fixed it. But however, I was unable to tune it to the proper E, high note E, because before I was able to get it, it just snapped. The whole thing came out because the string wasn't long enough. So it was very frustrating yesterday. I had to get a new one. I had to open a new bag to, you know, just for that string. And then in the near future, I need to like, you know, it's like I need to make sure that I have enough E strings, so that next time when I change it, or maybe I had to end up buying new set just for that, and that's just very annoying. So anyway, that is another reason why I hate vintage tuner. So that is very annoying. And then of course, also for the modern tuner, when you tune it, of course I understand it that when you change the string, you usually need to let it sit for 24 hours to ensure that the tension is not, you know, because the new string is much more tense, I guess, much more fixed on, so that you kind of need to have it, allow it to elongate for a proper time before you are able to play it. But even so, I will always, after fixing it, I will always try to tune it at the proper proper tune, and then let it sit there for whatever. It's so difficult to tune it properly. It's just like so easily out of tune. I change it for like 1 minute, and then, you know, play a one again. It just all out of tune right away. So it just took me like within an hour. It took me like at least 7 or 8 times to try to get it kind of tuned, and then the next morning when I try to play again, it is still horrible. I mean, you don't often see that for the modern tuner, so it's kind of annoying why Fender is still using vintage tuner. So for a little bit of history as well, in case you don't know, vintage tuners is usually used for Fender's 50s guitars. after 50s, for the 60s, the modern tuna comes in. And right now, nowadays, correct me if I'm wrong, most of the brand, they all use modern tunas, or different ones depending on what kind. It's either a locking tuna and so forth. And you don't often see vintage tuna units you get a Fender's guitar, especially if it's a 50s guitar. So okay, then you will ask me, well, if you don't like vintage tuna, why the hell do you buy a guitar that's vintage? It comes with a vintage tuna. Well, the reason is because I really like the 50s style guitar. The design is awesome. The only thing I don't like is the vintage part of it. And I kind of think that it's annoying, because I think sometimes another reason why I think that Fender still using the vintage one is because it probably costs less to produce or assemble than a modern tuner. And I think it is true, is because that if you see most of the Japanese made guitar, they also use vintage tuner over than the other models. And also this guitar, this is a made in US Performer, and this is, I think at this moment, if I'm certain, is the only US made guitar that only comes with a vintage tuner. Because if you look at the Ultra, the Elite, they all use the modern tuner. And the Performer is the low end, the most cheapest model you can find nowadays for Fenders. So because of that, you will ask me again another question. Well, then if you don't like the vintage tuner, you could put replace it with the modern tuner. But you also have kind of nowadays, especially after COVID, when the production is, the production is not fast while the demand is increasing, and also the wood supply, the cost of producing one guitar is much higher than the past few years. So the cost of a guitar, any guitar, it doesn't matter if it's Fender or whatever, the price have skyrocketed so much, it's ridiculous. So this guitar costs around $1,000 US, because this is made in US, so it costs $1,000 US. I'm not saying that it is the most expensive one. There are more expensive Fender guitar, but to have a made in US, you spend a made in US one, and you kind of don't want, you just kind of doesn't justify of getting, spend extra more just for a tuner. So it's very frustrating. It's like, why should I spend extras when, the guitar is already very pricey? So you kind of like, oh yeah, then you cannot win. If you expect a 50s guitar, then you expect this. Then don't buy a 50s guitar. You can't expect 50s guitar Fender will do that. But then again, you kind of question yourself. Fender's guitar, when they say reissue 50s, most of the time, the pickup they use for the 50s model, they're not really 50. They always put 60 pickup. So the thing is that if you use a 60s pickup for the 50s guitar, then why can't you use a 60s tuner on a 50s? So basically, I really think the reason why Fender still, arrogantly use a vintage tuner because it cut costs. It's much cheaper. I really think it is so much cheaper to use this. And I think it's very ridiculous, because nowadays there's no other brand, or even the duplicate guitars, they don't even use vintage tuner. So I don't understand why Fenders refuse to use something better. I understand that you want that reissue, you want that 50s model, bring it back like Gibson's, but the thing is though, if vintage tuner is crap, don't bring it back, or design something better for the vintage tuner that is actually improved, because you want the tone, but you also want the guitar doesn't have to be as terrible as some of the stuff that some of the flaws of the 50s. I mean, given the fact that now it has been at least 70 years since the 50s, 1950s, so it's kind of, I think it's just very arrogant for Fenders to do that. And it really, especially it really pisses me off is that most of the guitars I like in Fender nowadays, they all comes with vintage tuner. So I don't know if that is, I should thank Fender to do that, because you know that actually save me money, because most of the time when I see a guitar I like and I see vintage tuner, that's a deal breaker for me. So actually that kind of saved me money. I don't, so should I thank you for that? I don't know. I mean, I still really want those guitars. So it really just upset. And I kind of understand maybe that is another marketing strategy, is because they try to put something that you don't like and then put something you really like, and then they were trying to make you, you know, oh, I cannot get one that is not like that. Then you kind of go for custom, but not many people have the privilege to do that. So, and not many people are willing to spend that much money on a custom, because custom is usually cost at least $2,000 to $3,000 US. So I kind of wish that nowadays Fender, I know it's not gonna happen, but kind of wish that, you know, nowadays with the models you can kind of select what kind of tuner you want and stuff. And I'm sure that they do have a podcast that kind of like much more less expensive than custom, but it's still expensive. I think that if you really can select what kind of parts you want, I think that it still costs like around at least $1,500 US. And you can only make those when you are live in the US. And unfortunately I don't live in the US, so I cannot able to do that, and I'm not willing to spend extra because of that. So that also very frustrating me sometimes, but of course because of that I can go to, you know, instead of spending money on Fender, I can go for all the guitar models from another brand like PRS, Gibson, and so forth. So I mean, it's kind of win-win for me, you know, not buying it because of Fender. I mean, also not to mention the quality for some Fender part, even in the US, is not good. There's still many problems in Fender's QC problems. So I think, so I guess Fender nowadays is not really it's not as good as I kind of expected when I first play guitar. So it's kind of sad that, you know, they don't fix these kind of issues and stuff, and that the fact that using vintage tuner is another thing that why most of the guitars I play nowadays is not really a Fender. But I really like this guitar, and just so sad that it comes with a vintage tuner. And I also want to let you guys know, this bothers me. Hello, can you see it? Nowadays most of the Fender's guitar have this kind of problem, so I probably need to get it fixed with the action and stuff. You still, right now it still plays well, but you shouldn't do that. And this vintage tuner is just it just really bothers me that I just don't want to try to solve it. It's just really painful for me. Of course, that is just my opinion, and that's just my rant. So if you disagree, I'm sure that some of you guys like vintage tuner than modern, but of course you have many reasons why, and I have many reasons why I don't like it. And regardless, that's just my opinions, and I just kind of wish that they could do better, or at least trying to make it better for people. I mean, I cannot imagine if your first guitar is, you know, using vintage tuner, which mine was, and and it's just very painful to, you know, it's just very painful when I fast change a string on a vintage tuna. I actually watched YouTube and stuff. It just still took me a while. It took me at least 2 hours when I fast change it. That is because it's just so painful, especially when I wasn't experienced enough. It just takes forever, and so that memory came back. It's just like, oh, I cannot believe it. Anyway, that's the reason why I don't like vintage tuna. And I hope you guys, I mean, if you don't like it as well, I hope that this, you know, related to your situation as well. So feel free to let me know what you think. If you agree or disagree, feel free to comment below. Otherwise, I will see you guys in next video. Bye guys.